normally, for the past couple months, not the same vibe as it was this morning. And although that game got very terrible quick, and although that football was sloppy, trashy, and almost as messy as the messy situation with Barcelona, we can now turn on the TV in the morning. We can go onto the internet and we can see NFL teams being represented in highlights that are happening yesterday. Yeah! Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable.
I don't know how long Punxsutawney Phil lives in that little fucking hole. And I don't know how long bears stay in hibernation or whatever. And whenever people go into solitude or whatever it is, but it feels like in the off season, we're kind of locked away in a little no happy time.
Big time.
When's football coming back in? And people are going to say that I might be a shallow human for that. And I say, you right. Okay?
Sure.
Not very deep thoughts here. Let's go ahead and cut those off. Let's have a good time. Football makes me happier. That's what I realized last night watching the pre-show where they were celebrating all of the greats, not only of this year's Hall of Fame class, but last year's Hall of Fame class.
Right.
There was a lot of interviews and conversations. The stadium in Canton, Ohio looked beautiful from the drone shots or the helicopter shots. It was filled up. And although the football, I can't reiterate this enough, got very, very, very bad.
Bad football.
Because the players that were playing are probably not going to end up in the NFL. Very good football players, probably not going to end up in the NFL for long. A large majority of them, or maybe a couple will be able to squeak through. It's not easy to make it in the NFL, but also they've only had like 4 or 5 days to learn everything that they're supposed to learn. There was a blitz on Dwayne Haskins last night, and I don't think if Dwayne Haskins hadn't started in the past, if he was just a rookie quarterback that would normally play in these types of situations, he's getting absolutely pounded there. There's a quick get off. He makes a completion, I think, there. But there is very limited time to prepare for this Hall of Fame game. Everybody knows it's a ceremonial game basically at this point. There was a time back in the day where I think actual players played in these games, but now that is not the case. There's still 4 more preseason games for both teams that played last night, 3 more preseason games for both teams that played last night, and 4 more out there. Ben will be able to get out there and maybe get some snaps. Juju will be able to get back out there. Okay, maybe some offensive linemen will play so we can see Najee Harris with them. But it was nice to get a little football action out there. And the thing that I took away from last night is, although the kicking performance was not fantastic, I'm talking field goals.
Sure. Jeez. Not great.
It's tough.
It was not great. All right, it was tough for the brand when it came to get the jitters out. It's preseason. Who gives a damn?
Yeah.
It's just preseason. Everybody's trying to get better. Now, those 2 guys kicking, Nicewander and Sloman, I'm not 100% sure if they're going to be kicking for anybody this year or their respect. Sloman definitely not because Boz is there, but I don't know what Nicewander's thing is. Not a great day kicking, but he's still balling out on punt and everything. Presley fucking Harvin.
Yeah.
Hey, star of the game last night.
Yeah.
He was
a punter from Georgia Tech that got drafted in 7th round, pick 254, I believe was the number. I was also a 7th round drafted punter, so I was super pumped to watch Presley Harvin go out there and kind of, I don't want to say earn his stripe on his Steelers helmet. But I was excited to see him with an NFL ball in an NFL setting, even though this is nothing similar to what a regular season game will be like for Presley. I love that he stepped up to the moment and he made plays. 2 pooch punts were beautiful. The first one would have been fair caught if it was a good returner at the 10, which is exactly what he would be trying to do. And not saying he wasn't a good returner. A actual game returner would not have tried to return a ball that was definitely fair catchable, because if they fumble that, it's game over and they're fired forever. But then the next one, he puts that thing down at the half-yard line. Yeah. Great bounce. Okay, great bounce there. That thing could have went the opposite direction. We're talking very differently, but Presley had beautiful control on that thing, perfect distance, a little backspin checkup, how you doing, keep it moving. Then he gets out there, hits a field punt, misses that one, hits the ground, gets the ball back though. It's like, hey, when you're in a groove, when you are in a zone, good things just start happening. Last ball, I think, was his best ball. I enjoyed Presley last night. I'm also a Jordan Berry guy, who is the former punter. He's currently on the roster as well. Presley was drafted. You don't spend a draft pick on a punter or a kicker, especially if he has a good game. Look for Presley to continue to go. And aside from that, I just love that football was happening, man. Presley dominated. Got to hear Troy Aikman and Joe Buck back at it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and a lot of people bury Joe Buck.
All the big time.
Joe Buck's been calling games since he was 24 years old. I got to hear his story a little bit because of the Rozelle thing. I guess his mom gave a film of his work to somebody else's wife who was in it and said, hey, will you watch a video of my son? And then that's how he got in there because his dad was in there. So it was, he's got his whole thing. So a lot of people say, hey, nepotism is a problem in the TV world, which it is, by the way, but I don't think Joe Buck is one of those situations. I think Joe Buck, regardless of who his family was, regardless of where, he potentially came from or the people he got to know, he's fucking talented, man.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Buck is so good at what he does, just as a host. Now, he calls everything, so everybody's favorite team, he has been on the call for the best moments and probably their absolute worst moments, and he's directly associated with that. And there's been a couple situations I think he has alluded to not having great self-awareness, I think, while he's in the booth.
Right.
But whenever you're on TV for 20-some years or whatever, for that many hours and that many big moments, you learn a lot about Joe Buck. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit. And after last night, Troy Aikman, I think, has gone to I think Troy Aikman's even, because before the game he was speaking and he had a little pundit in him when he was speaking before the game, and it was a very fucking good. Yeah. And then him talking about Jerry and Jimmy, which we will talk about in moments because that was maybe the best piece of content that has happened in a long time, just in any particular world. I like Troy Aikman a lot, though, and I don't know how anybody doesn't like Troy. I said Troy Aikman's the man last night, and there was a lot of people who were like, nah, he's terrible or whatever. Troy Aikman's fucking awesome in there. He really is. He really is.
It always goes back to like when your team is playing in that like 4:05 Sunday window, having those guys call it, even so, like, and then let's say the next week you go and you have like the third crew on Fox, like there's a big difference there. Like it makes the game feel bigger than it really is.
And I'm not sure, I don't know Troy well enough. I think there's a chance he dabbles in the vitamins that I dabble. I don't know him well enough. Okay, this is me just judging like everybody else does. But the way his brain works and the way he speaks about the game, I think like, hey, I'm a big fan of Troy.